would you describe as like slowing down? Like less
Buyers,
people are willing to buy, or they're just like not bidding as high? Because I think those are two different things, right?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's what I've noticed is houses are sitting on the market a little bit longer than normal.
Uh-huh.
So and not that it's a long time, but a week or 2 weeks is different than what it's been for the past 3 or 4 years. And then so therefore, then they're not willing to pay the list price and or over the price,
Hmm.
right? And I think we're going to start seeing less appraisal gaps, um, the appraisal gap coverage and that kind of stuff. So I think a little bit of both, meaning the buyers have kind of slowed down because the interest rates have gone up. I think it's the time of year as well.
Hmm.
So we'll see how it plays out.
I have a question for you. Maybe you could help clarify. When people say that it's slowing down, or that they're not even bidding as high, does that mean that the prices of homes are going down? Or let's say if a home was worth 300 and earlier people were bidding, let's say 350, but let's say now they're bidding only 325. The prices of the home still didn't go down, or is it actually that they went down, like they're now being listed for 280 or 290? Does that make sense?
I Yeah, it does. I think I know what you're getting at. So there's a couple of things in that is that when I say the market is slowing down, there's less buyers out there. So therefore, we don't have a lot of inventory. The inventory amount hasn't changed. We still have low inventory, but before we had a lot of buyers out there, but with the interest rate, so then there's less buyers and they're not willing to pay the interest rate at this point. They need to get adjusted to that way of thinking. They are what it's creating is it's not it's where
That
our
craze isn't
list to
there?
sell price was 104%. It's not 104% anymore. It's maybe you're going to be paying list price, maybe because there's not as much competition, right?
I see.
So I think that the housing prices are going to stay level. They're not going to go down. People will pay what, excuse me, people will pay what is the market allows, what the market bears, comparable
Hmm.
housing prices.
So you think it's just gonna continue to go up, but just not in a crazy maniacal way, kind of like as it was
Correct.
earlier? Hmm.
Correct.
I was talking with another agent, and she was actually happy that it was this way because of how busy and crazy it was, almost unrealistic to kind of keep up the pace with that kind of life as a realtor. I don't know how you look at it, but that's kind of what I've heard other people say. They're kind of ready for a change of pace.
100%. I agree. I mean, people think the people outside of the real estate community think that we are, just making all kinds of money and selling all kinds of houses and stuff. And it's really not that way. I mean, it was just a shift in, that there's not as much inventory, but there were a lot of buyers out there. But it's hard because we would be working and we'd be showing houses and writing offers, but the buyers weren't getting it. So
Yeah.
that is not. I 100% agree. I'm glad for the shift. I hope it goes back and stays back at a normal, if you will, if there is a normal pace. I've been doing this 25 years, so I've seen a lot. I welcome the normal pace.
That's awesome. And I actually heard one of the clients that we work with, she was saying, and this is kind of a very unique story, but it kind of goes to show how you agents really put in the effort to serve your clients because she mentioned close to 10 years from like the beginning initial consultation to like when the buyer bought. And that has nothing to do with the market, that's just the buyer. But I've heard so many stories like, and you mentioned yourself, like 30 showings, 40 showings for a house for a one person until you finally get into a house. And that's
Not
kind of
even just
incredible.
showings. It's writing the offers. It's writing 4, 5, 6, 10 offers before they get anything. And a lot of times buyers just give up and say, forget it. I can't buy anything. So again,
Hmm.
there's the shift where I'm seeing houses just this week. And I thought maybe it was because of the holiday weekend that, the houses that went on the market on the holiday weekend, I thought, if they don't go into contract that week, they'll be in contract, by the weekend after. I'm not, I didn't see that. I see them sitting, I see them dropping prices to get to a more
Hmm.
reasonable price, if you will. Not that the value has gone down, but yeah, it's and these poor buyers, they're writing, like I said, 4 to 10 offers before they get anything. If they don't, get frustrated in the meantime and then just go rent something or stay where they're at or whatever. So,
Hmm. So, before we kind of come back to the current situation you're in, would you mind sharing and kind of backing up a little bit? And I wanted to hear a little bit of your story of how you got into real estate initially. Um, Specifically, I don't really know much about the beginning, which is why I kind of wanted to learn.
mhm.
When before you got into real estate, were you in any other career, or did you get into real estate kind of right away?
No, I didn't get into real estate right away. I was probably in my mid 30s. My husband was in the military, so we traveled. We lived in a couple of different states, and that's where our kids were born in a couple different states and stuff. And then I never even thought about real estate. I concentrated on staying home with my kids and being there with them while they were little, especially being living in other states where we didn't have family and that kind of stuff. So, and then once our oldest daughter decided, once she was going into kindergarten, we decided, my husband was going to, we were going to come back home, stay planted here, get our kids in a school district and keep them there and everything. So we started looking for a house to purchase, and it just was kind of organic. My real estate agent I called about a house from a sign because back in 1988, that's what you did. That's there. We didn't have internet in 1988,
No
so I
MLS?
mean, we just didn't. We didn't. So anyway, so we met her. We really liked her, and we were young, and uh, so what we did was we ended up buying a house, and throughout the process, I was just doing things. I didn't sit back and just let her do everything. I didn't know any different. I was just doing. And one day she said to me, she said, Anita, you need to let me do my job. She said, you're doing what I do. You need to be a real estate agent. And then I went, oh, okay. And so, because then I looked back and I thought, I really enjoyed this process.
Hmm.
So she encouraged me to take the classes. So I took the classes in 1989. And then my youngest daughter, Alex, was 3, and Erica was 5. And it was just too much for me at that point. I couldn't, I really wanted to focus on raising my kids, and being gone all the time was just not something. So I didn't do anything other than take classes.
Hmm.
So then in 1997, Alex, my youngest one, was in the 5th grade, and I was like, okay, it's time now. I can do this. So took the test and got my real estate license. So by that time, I was mid 30s. So, but before that, before I actually got my real estate license, I owned a dance studio.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, and that wasn't my passion. I mean, I liked it. I mean, I grew up around dance and stuff and cheerleading and everything, but it wasn't my passion. I did it because my kids were in dance and cheerleading, and so I was able to be with them. So I coached cheerleading at the high school level. I opened up the dance studio. I started a cheerleading company, and eventually sold it because, again, like I said, it wasn't my passion. So it was always focusing on my kids and everything. So,
Hmm.
but once I got into real estate, I mean, I have enjoyed it for 25 years. I've seen a lot of changes, um, a lot of shifts, a lot of different types of people that I've met. I've built some great relationships. Um, it's really been a great career for me. And then
That's
now,
awesome.
as you know, my daughter Alex works with me, which is great. So,
I was going to say, you mentioned you took classes when she was 3, and now you're working together. So that's awesome.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
when you said that your biggest reason at first not to get into real estate was you wanted to focus on family, and I imagine that's no different today. And I also know
Correct.
that initially when people get into real estate, what kind of draws them is the flexibility, the schedule. But when they start working, it actually ends up being more than a 9 to 5. It like so much time goes into it. So I'm curious to hear, how did you initially, I'm sure you hit that roadblock at first, and how did you overcome it? How do you make sure to keep the family as a priority while also being a successful real estate agent?
Well, I think success is individual, right? I think everybody can define success at their own level. So to me, success was always my kids always either played a sport or like I said, danced competitively, cheered competitively, cheered at the high school level. Alex cheered at Ohio, danced at Ohio State and cheered at Ohio State. And I didn't miss anything. And I always said I was not going to miss anything that my kids, I'm not going to be that parent that's not there, that work is more important. So, you know, success is an individual feeling, right? Or thought or want or desire.
Hmm.
Success to me was to be able to be there for my kids, number one, to be a focused parent. But so my success in real estate was at my level. So I never set out to be a mega agent. I never set out to be the top, selling agent in my area or anything. And I think that your family values kind of, I think it inadvertently spills over to the types of clients um, that you come across, that you
That
end up
respect
getting.
your time.
Yeah, they respect it, and they know who you are. So I've always really worked by referral. Um, and then repeat clients, obviously, but by referral has been my way. I don't, I think if people know, love, and trust you, they're going to refer their friends and family and clients or coworkers or whatever to you. So I've built my business from day one based on that. Like I said, I never tried to be the number one agent. So success to me is being able to do what I want to do and need to do for my family, and being able to do what I want to do and need to do for my clients.
Hmm.
And if I don't need to sell 100 houses a year. I just need to do what I do, and I need to do it well on both
Hmm.
ends.
So, did you have a time where, even though you maybe weren't seeking to be the agent that was doing a lot of volume, but you ended up at that point, and so now you had to choose like between family and work, and then if you were to choose family, did you ever have that feeling of like, oh, well, this is going to hurt my business? And if you did, can you mind sharing like how you overcame that? Because I think a lot of people would learn from that experience.
Yeah, gosh, I feel like that. I'm sure that has been. Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm trying to remember a one specific instance, but I really can't pinpoint anything. One thing I do remember early on in my career, probably, gosh, my first year in the business. I didn't know. Listen, I was raised by my father, who was always entrepreneurial, and he just worked hard all the time. And you just do the right thing and work hard, and that's what I grew up knowing. So I didn't know any different. So that's what I did. I worked hard, and I remember one Memorial Day weekend, and it was on Memorial Day, and my family was going somewhere doing something. It was so long ago. It was like 24 years ago, 25 years ago. So I don't remember the specifics, but I remember this perfectly because it was one of my first clients. They needed to buy a house, so they wanted to go out and look at houses, and then I would have to list their house in Grandview. And I again don't remember the specifics of it, but I remember on Memorial Day I took them out looking at houses,
Hmm.
and I felt like I want to be with my family. I wanted to be with my family on this holiday. And then the next day they ended up telling me that they were going to use somebody else. They were going with another realtor. And so I literally remember bawling, crying. I mean, physically crying, not to them, but just got off the phone crying because I was like, I don't get it. I just spent time away from my family, right? To be with you guys to help you look for houses. So then, but after a while, I realized maybe I was projecting that. Maybe I was projecting onto them that I really didn't want to be there, that I really needed to be with my family. And
Hmm.
I don't know that. I'm not saying for sure that's what it was, But I was new too. I mean, I who knows what it is, but what it was. But and I've been on the other end of that as well, where I've had clients come to me and say that, they didn't feel that the realtor they were working for was the right realtor for them for whatever reason. So I get it. But I do remember crying because I was torn and I was angry that I took my time away from my family where I
Hmm.
really wanted to be, and I wasn't appreciated by the client. So, but that happens all the time, and so that's the only thing I can really remember. So I think from that point on is where I really shifted to say, I'm I mean, I know over the years that my family has sacrificed. Like I did open houses every single weekend, nonstop for at least the first 3 years, nonstop. So, I spent time away from my family on the weekend to do open houses and, listing houses and showing houses. But my husband was really good about, picking up that slack and everything. So we all made sacrifices.
Of course, yes. And I appreciate you sharing that. When you were initially kind of getting into real estate, you weren't I don't it didn't seem like you had the goal of becoming the number one agent or something mega successful. But I was wondering if over the years your perspective shifted, maybe as your personal life changed and you maybe started approaching real estate different. Because seeing how you guys work now, it's a structured business.
Mhm.
And can you share about that shift that happened for you?
Well, that kind of goes back to when I said, when I first I got in the business when I first got my license, and my dad taught me that there was only one way. I mean, he didn't say it with words, but he showed me throughout his my life that you work hard and you do what you're supposed to do. So I did that, and literally I got my license in April of 1997, and in 1998, for the whole year of 1998, I was awarded the top closing agent in my office, which was King Thompson at the time, and before they became Coldwell Banker King Thompson. And I was shocked. I had no clue. We were at the awards ceremony, and they gave me this award, and my manager just looked at me like, you didn't even know this, but you were getting this because you worked hard. I had no clue. So you get a little bit of taste of that success, and of course you want more. But I'm not a competitive person. I compete against myself, right? I always want to be better for myself, and it's not how many closings I have or whatever. I just want to be a better person, a better real estate agent, whatever. So I don't know that I ever had a shift I don't think there was a shift as far
Hmm.
as what what level I wanted to be at. I think it just was organic for me. I
Hmm.
guess if there was a shift at all in anything, is was a natural shift to having a team, because I was always a solo agent, and it just kind of again shifted organically to having a team. So.
Hmm. A lot of agents I talk with over the years, almost every single one of them says they work by referral. And you even mentioned that yourself. Some agents I talk to, it doesn't seem like they have any kind of structure or plan of how to get more referrals. But I
Mhm.
wanted to see if you could share what do you do, like intentionally, to get more referrals. Obviously, you can't force people to talk about you and refer you, but is there anything that you do that you could share about that you do to get more referrals to kind of make it more predictable?
Oh, wow. I don't know if you can really predict any of that. But what I've always done was go back to the basics and do the best job for your clients. And that again will automatically, they'll automatically say, if they love you and you show them the value and you do what you should be doing and go above and beyond, they will automatically refer you out. And I've got families that I've worked with starting from where I met somebody at an open house years ago, and then now I'm selling their kids' homes, or I've helped their cousin's brother's son, and that kind. You know what I mean? So it just kind of goes down that way. But um, we stay in, and I did was not. I did not do this well at the beginning of my career, but I do it well now, is I stay in touch with all my past clients. I make sure that that they know I'm here as a resource for them
Mm-hmm.
if they need some advice or whatever about real estate. I try to stay in front of them, whether it's our client events or whether it's just sending out simple note cards, just saying, hey, you know, thinking about you or whatever. You know, you think about it, when you spend so much time with clients and you're really invested in what, you know, in them purchasing a home. And this is, I mean, it's the largest purchase of their life, and you know a lot of details, and you're really working hard. I personally I get attached to my clients, most of them, not all of them, but most of them I get attached to. And it's like the closing happens and then you're done. And then where are they? And you're like, oh my gosh. So last Friday night, it was funny because my husband and I had dinner with clients of mine that, gosh, I first helped them probably 20 years ago. And I've helped their kids since then, and I'm watching their grandkids grow up and stuff. And now they've become friends. And so it's just, and I like those kind of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so does that answer your question? Hopefully that answers your question.
Well, there's no cookie cutter answer. I don't, I can ask questions, but you have your own personal experience, which is what I
Right.
wanted to learn about. And it's interesting that um, I've seen the best agents, or the agents that have had consistent success, are the ones that put relationships of the people they work with or on their team over the actual like numbers and closings, and kind of inadvertently, by focusing on those relationships, keeping in touch in a genuine way, it actually ends up bringing more success in a financial way than if you would be just solely running towards the money and trying to get more closings. It might be similar to the situation you had on the Memorial Day, where it just kind of repels people because they kind of sense that you're not prioritizing their needs. There's something else that you're looking at. Whether in your case it was a good thing trying to be with family, but if it's a situation with like trying to get more money, people can kind of sense that.
Right. Yeah.
Would you mind sharing from a practical perspective? As a realtor, there's a lot of things you need to balance. You're in many ways like a one person show. And even if you have a team, there's so many different responsibilities that come down to one person. What are some things you can share that would help young entrepreneurs or other agents in time management, personal development, to making sure that you don't burn out? Like one agent I talked with, her first year, she got so busy that by the end of the year, she actually got sick because of how busy she was and
Mhm.
stopped taking
Mhm.
care of herself. What could
Mhm.
you share from that kind of perspective?
Yeah, I would say to new agents, this is what I do when I mentor and train new agents, is I tell them to get their systems in place first, time block. And when you time block, don't just time block for business, but time block for yourself. And that's something I did not do. You know, like I said, my kids were young, so it was either working or taking care of my kids. I didn't take care of myself. I didn't. I was always, I never thought about myself. It was always my kids or my clients. So I always suggest have a plan. And if you don't know what to plan, you get a mentor. You find somebody who can mentor you, find somebody who can guide you, who will help you, who will give you the good, bad, and the ugly. And but I would say systems number one, and time blocking not only for your business but for yourself. You've got to take the
Mhm.
time for yourself, and it's okay. It's okay to take that time for yourself. And I'm sad to say I'm just now getting to that point where I'm saying I am going to take time for myself.
Can we kind of go a little deeper on that, especially the time blocking portion? Can you give some practical advice on how that plays out in someone's life? Because I could know for myself, I've tried so many different productivity ways of like managing time. Some ways work, some ways don't work. Maybe you can share something about that. I found for me, paper and pencil is the best way. But what did you learn from your experience?
Um, you know, I've done a lot of different things over the past 25 years. So I'm a, I'm a, I'm a pencil and paper person too. But I'm getting better at I'm getting better at Google Calendar and blocking off my time and setting alarms. For me, that helps me to set an alarm to remind me because I can get so focused on something else. And then, I'm focused on something and then all of a sudden, something happens over here and then I'm gone over there, right? Or my dog does something or, somebody calls me like my phone's I'm getting texts right now from somebody that I have to deal with something right away. It's something I need to deal with because it's popping up on my computer here and I know that, but I'm going to stay focused here and I'm going to do this and then that will have to wait. So and I'll take care of that later. But I think everybody again is different, and determine what I say. Prioritize, and this is again when I'm training agents on my team. I tell people make a list, whether it's pen and paper, whether it's however you do it. Make a list of what you have to accomplish in that day, and just pick three things and get those most important three things off of your plate first thing in the morning. First thing.
Hmm.
The hardest things, just be done with it first thing. And that's what I do. I've become very good at that, of getting the hard things done first thing in the morning. And then the rest of the day is easier. But time blocking is different for everybody. When you have small kids, it's hard. When you have, challenges in your life that, other people just don't know about, it's hard because you have to be flexible with those types of things. And um, we do the best we can, and that's all you can do. You can't beat yourself up about it. But I don't know if that's helpful or not, but that's just kind of the way I do it.
It is helpful. And I actually wanted to ask follow-up questions. So, especially for a newer agent, how do you decide what is important and what is important, specifically with the business side of things? Like what is important when you're trying to decide the three things that you need to do? What should a agent be doing besides the obvious of like if you need to close a house and write the contract and or write an offer, that's one thing. But
Mhm.
when it comes to like developing your business, what would you say the most important things are that they should focus on?
I teach to my agents to always be prospecting, to always be stay in contact with past clients. If you have past clients, to stay in touch with them. Always focus on the retention part of it. Always focus on I guess. Um, Again, I just feel like it depends on what your focus is, what's most important to you. So start if you're talking about a new agent, excuse me, starting a business, um, you need to be prospecting and you've got to determine how you want to prospect. You've got to determine what you're good at and what you're not good at. There are people who are really good at doing open houses, and there are people who are horrible at doing open houses. Don't do open houses if you're horrible at it because you're wasting your time. Because what people want is somebody that they can trust and they feel like it's gonna give them the information and the education that they need and the help that they need. Um, I would say that's a hard one. That's a hard one to pinpoint.
Hmm. Could it be that, I guess it is different. For a new agent, you have to decide how you're going to grow that list of contacts. You really just need to get yourself out there, do everything you can. But I guess the question would be more relevant to someone that's a little more seasoned, a couple years
Mhm.
in. Maybe they're at that point of maybe even growing into a team, or if they stay solo to build those systems. I guess the question would make more sense if I were to ask, like, what kind of systems would you want to implement? Do you automate certain things? Do you delegate and outsource certain tasks to help you focus on what do that you do best? What would you say you systematize?
We everything. We really do everything. We systematize our our CRM. We have our team communication system. We have our transaction tracker is what we call it. We systemize and we just worked really hard on this, and we still have a little bit of work to do on it, but we've systemized our listing presentations so that all of our agents on our team have that guide. And of course, everybody's going to do things in a little bit different way, but as a team and as a team lead, my name is on every single listing, and my name is on all the marketing, so I need to make sure that it's the way I want it. So
Hmm.
we systematize that. Um, we try to focus on our brand, which you are fully aware of that, and what are we portraying to
Hmm.
to everybody out there, and everything. So I think now there are so many options. There are so many different systems or you know outlets that you can go to. I would just say see what works for you. Do you and if you're a solo agent, systems are still good. If you're I mean they're very helpful. If you're a team on a team and you're a team lead, you definitely need systems.
Hmm.
And whatever that looks like, whatever, if it's lead generation systems, then we don't do those on our team, lead generation systems, um, as far as like cold calling. We don't do that. Our lead gen systems is in our CRM, where we just continue to keep in contact with our past clients, people that are in our database, our sphere of influence. We do ask them if they have any referrals for us, that kind of stuff. So sometimes you kind of have to educate the consumer as to what it is you want, what it is that you're asking of them. But yeah, so I would definitely say have systems in place, whatever it is that whether you're solo or you're a team lead.
Hmm. I think what you just shared really is similar to what my experience has been. You mentioned that you don't do cold calling or like advertisements in that way. You're focusing more on the who you already know, and there's really no
Mhm.
way to know upfront what will and won't work for you. Maybe for some people, their business is solely based off those cold clients that they turn into clients. And then for you, for example, and I know another agent who said she almost never paid for any advertisements before, and she does solely referrals, kind of like how you're mentioning. And I think it all comes down to you
Mhm.
have to try different things, see what works for you. Not even like the way you present your listings, but just everything. Just try the different variations that are possible. See what you like most, see what works best for you or your personality, what you can keep up with consistently, and then that kind of will be the best thing. Even looking at the top 10 agents, if you look at the list, all of them are so different. Some of them are huge teams, some of them are small teams. They have different approaches. It really just comes down to finding something that works for you and then being consistent with it.
You hit the nail on the head there. Consistency is definitely key, because a lot of times we tend to get frustrated. If we're doing something and it's not working. Uh, it depends on have you been doing it for 6 weeks or 6 months or 6 years? If you're doing it for 6 years and you're not getting anything, then it doesn't work. If you're doing it for 6 weeks and you don't get anything, you need to stick with it.
Hmm.
Typically maybe around the 6 month mark, you should start seeing something, maybe a little bit longer, but again, you've got to explore all of those things, but staying consistent is key. If you're going to do the lead generation system where you're going to be cold calling, that's great. That's fine. People are very successful at that. And maybe they start out that way in their business to build that customer base, to be able to go back and have them as a past client or a referral base. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that I know I'm not good at that. I don't want to do it. So I just never have done that way. So could I have done more volume if I did that? Absolutely. Sure. But again, that wasn't important to me. So just, everybody is different. Everybody should do what they want to do and feel comfortable doing and actually are good at doing. So,
Hmm. It's kind of refreshing to
Staying
hear your
consistent.
yeah, it's refreshing to hear your perspective of you kind of know what you want and your goals are prioritizing family because sometimes I hear other agents say things like, well, there's no such thing as work-life balance. And there's some kind of sentiment of like people are almost giving up on the idea of having a good balance and guidelines of what is allowed in your life and what isn't. And it's refreshing to hear that you've been sticking to that for such a long period of time, that it's not over, that like it's still possible.
Yeah, it's been a struggle. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it was not easy. It was not an easy thing to do. I wish I could say it was, but it wasn't. I was pulled, you know, I was pulled more struggling towards the work side of it, where I wanted to be with my family, but I knew that if I didn't take these folks out to show them these houses, they'll find another agent. And, I remember one time that just jogged a memory where I sold a house to I had sold a house to a lady and her husband, and then we ended up selling it. And then a couple months later, she called me on a Friday at like 6 o'clock in the evening, and she said, "I found this house. It was an earth home, so very unique. I found this house. I want to go see it tonight because I'm going to buy it." And she said, literally straight up said to me, "If you don't show it to me tonight, I'm going to find another agent. But I'm calling you first because, I would like to work with you, and, you've done well for us in the past." But she wasn't willing to wait for me because she wanted this house.
Hmm.
So I had to change my plans that Friday night and go show that house and write an offer. And she bought it. So was it worth that sacrifice? I mean, yes, it was, because if it was something, if my plans for that Friday night were something so important to my family, I wouldn't have done that. I would have maybe found another agent to show it to her or whatever. But I did that. And so we do make sacrifices. Don't get me wrong. I
Hmm.
mean, I made a lot of sacrifices, but and it's not easy. It's easy to sit here and say, my family came first, and, my business came second, but I was still successful. It's not that easy.
Yeah,
There were sacrifices.
that's great. What would you kind of looking back at yourself 25 years ago when you were just starting out, what would be a piece of advice you would give to yourself, to your younger self? And I know that's a
Um,
very loaded question,
it is a very, I mean, because things were so different then than they are now. Um,
but I think a lot of like on the outside things change, but at the core, we as people, we're still the same in a way. We're still reacting to challenges. And I think on that deeper level, like what kind of advice would you give? Not like what's the best lead generation or
right.
way to system, but more of like on a deeper level, um, looking forward, that person that's 25 years younger is looking forward. What would you give as advice to them? Or someone like that's young right now that's starting out?
Um, I would, I, on a business level, I would say to start out with the systems, definitely that, if I would have, and we didn't have systems when I started, that just, I mean, we didn't have GPS, we didn't have any of that stuff. We didn't have, we had fax machines with the paper was real waxy and it rolled up, and we would have to write our offer. And if we couldn't fax it, we'd have to drive the purchase contract over to the listing agent, wherever that is. So systems really weren't a thing. But I guess, in today's world, my suggestion to the people starting out would be to get your systems in place, because systems will help you stay focused, help you stay on track, and help you stay consistent. Um, Probably, if the one thing that, I could have, if I went back 25 years, I would I would have kept better records, because I didn't, because there were no systems. We had no systems. I didn't keep. I don't know who I sold houses to in those first probably 10 years of my career. I didn't keep records like that. So
Hmm.
I didn't keep records of any of that stuff. So now, we have so many more options, but I guess I would say stay consistent and, find what's working and stay consistent in it and learn as much as you can because there's a lot to know out there. I learn something new every single day in this business, every single
Hmm.
day.
What would, and this is the kind of last question, what would you recommend as learning material, whether it's podcasts, books, people to kind of learn from that you found very influential? And it doesn't necessarily have to be business. It could be more of on a personal development side.
I I would suggest find somebody that you trust, whether it's in the business or not. I mean, if you're starting out and you're looking for business advice, then find somebody that you admire or look up to, or feel like you want to emulate or be like, and that you think that they know what they're doing, or you want to work the way they do, and align yourself with them, whether it's being on their team or whether it's just, reaching out and, asking them to be your mentor. I was once told that um, you don't you don't ever know if you're a mentor or not. Sometimes you're a mentor and you just don't know it because
Hmm.
somebody who's looking up to you or looking kind of following you, you are their mentor and you don't realize it. So I would say find that person and learn from them, emulate them if you want to, uh, but decide who you want to be, who you are. And there's a lot of really good people out there. There's a lot of people who are always really helpful and are willing to be helpful. I started out, so I'm going to go back just a little bit real quick here to 1999 when, like I told you, in 1998. So I got my license in April 97. In 1998, I was a top closing agent in my office, not in the whole company, but in my office in the Hilliard market. And then in 1999, I got a phone call from the president of the company, and he said, I understand that you're newer, but the agents in the office are always telling me how helpful you are to them. And I'm like, I mean, everybody should be helpful to each other. I didn't say that to him. I was like, oh, I mean, yeah, I have no problem being helpful to people. So he asked me to manage an office. And I was like, well, I can't manage an office. I've only had my license for a year and a half. And he was like, no, 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 I have confidence in you. I know you can do it. And I said, well, how about if I start out as an assistant manager? And he was like, no, no, no. I think, I know you can do this, that you can do it. So I was like, okay, I'll try it. I'll give you 1 year, and then I will commit to 1 year. And if after a year, if it works, great. If it's not working, I'll let you know. So I did it for a year, and yeah, it didn't work. I mean, it wasn't that I was bad at it, but it was definitely a challenge. Um, I don't feel that I belonged there, but I think I know the reason why they came to me was because if I don't know the answer, I'll let you know I don't know the answer, but I'll find it out for you. So, I try to
Hmm.
help guide. So, but look, the background that I came from before that was owning a dance studio and teaching. So, you know, you don't even have to be a licensed real estate agent to teach and to coach real estate. You don't. It's more helping people get to where they want to be and what their goal is, and helping them figure that out. So I would say find a coach or a mentor that you want to align yourself with, that you want to be like.
Hmm. I can really attest to that about finding a mentor. Mine
Hmm.
is a little bit different than most people might imagine, but just having a person to look up to and to align yourself with as life changes, ups and
Hmm.
downs, kind of having that standard by what you're living by. Um, I can't
Hmm.
imagine living another way. Otherwise, you'd be like a wave on the sea, like tossed back and
Hmm.
forth with no standard and no stability, no like singular direction that you're moving towards. So I think that's very
Hmm.
important. It's like a foundation.
Hmm. Yep, absolutely.
Anita, I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you sharing your expertise, your experience. It's been very helpful for me, and I think that people that watch this will also find it very helpful. It was a pleasure talking with you. Thank you so much.